Look what Trump is talking about. He's eliminating the income tax and possibly going through tariffs. And people are so quick to...
Who pays the tariffs?
What?
Who pays the tariffs? So the product comes in from China, it gets on a ship,
right,
and then it comes in, and I'm the American manufacturer. I'm going to use that stuff from China. Who paid the tariff on it?
The Chinese government pays a tariff.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. I just want it to be even. Instead of us paying 400% of tariffs...
How you doing?
Hey, good. I want to...
I'm an importer and an exporter for 20 years.
Okay.
When a product comes into the US, there's something called a tariff sheet.
Okay.
I, as the buyer of that product, follow US law and pay the tariff. I pay that tariff to the US government, and that increase in the cost of the product I then sell to you for a higher price because I've got to cover that tariff.
What I do love is a Trump supporter that just talks very confidently about things they don't understand. And then even when corrected by someone who does know what they're talking about, really tries to hold on to that worldview as long as possible.
A product that comes into the US is paid for by a US company, and the increased cost of that is borne by all of us.
I can't.
That has never.
I can't count it. I don't have the information.
I am an importer and exporter. I do it for a living.
Okay.
Now I do have to hand it to this Trump supporter because he actually then does admit he doesn't know what he's talking about and isn't educated enough to speak on it. So that's rare. But of course that's after pretending he was educated enough to speak on it.
So tariffs are never a zero-sum game. Tariffs are a tool. So for example, you might say you want to sell us your beans, right?
Yeah.
We are going to give you a low tariff if you buy our corn, right? But the cost of the tariff is ultimately always borne by the consumer.
The simple fact is, it is true, it is a fact, that tariffs ultimately fall, the burden of them, on us, the American consumer. The country the tariffs are put on do not pay the tariffs. They are paid by the company importing the good, and in almost all cases, unless they're making insane profits and decide to still not pass it on to the customer, which they still almost always do, burden of the tariff falls on the customer. That's just a fact. Now, you can still argue for tariffs. There are still tariffs that Trump put in his first term that the Biden administration kept in place, and if they were always terrible, they wouldn't have done that, right? So there's definitely uses sometimes to exert your influence as the biggest economy in the world on other nations. But let's be honest about what it is. Let's not completely lie, directly lie to the voting populace to get elected, and then suddenly start speaking the truth like Trump has been doing. He said the countries the tariffs are on would pay the tariffs, 100% lie. Got in office. He said he would lower the prices of our goods, 100% lie. And as soon as he was elected, then started saying, well, it's going to be really hard to lower prices. And as soon as he's in office, starts saying, well, actually, I'm not sure if, here's the real truth. Stuff's going to be hard for a minute, maybe a long minute, maybe a while. Funny how the truth comes out after somebody's elected. And Trump's decision to target our closest allies, Mexico and Canada, with tariffs is being done in a way that will hurt Mexico, will hurt Canada, and will hurt the United States because we get lots of goods, lots of supplies, lots of basic materials from these places that we need to even make the things we make here in America. So the argument that tariffs can be used just to make it harder to do business with other countries and make it easier to do business here in America, yeah, that's great in an ideal world where every product, every mineral needed to make things, every raw material could be made in America as abundantly as in other places. But that's just not the case. Other parts of the world have more abundance in different things, and we need the world to be able to trade with each other. And the more open that trading relationship can be, the more we can have our economy flowing. Now, that is not to say that we don't need to encourage more manufacturing here in America. And that is a time when tariffs could be to some degree helpful. But let's be honest about the time frame. It doesn't immediately change the game. It needs time for that to take effect. And goods coming in from China, for example, that China's saying they're going to at least put a 10% tariff back on some goods from us. Their goods are already so much cheaper than goods here because they have such different labor laws, because they have no standards for quality or safety in the things that they put into their products. A 10% tariff is not going to make that difference. It's just going to raise the price of Chinese goods that will still be coming into America. Now, putting it on our closest allies, Mexico and Canada, like I said, and they're immediately putting it back on us, will hurt all parties involved. But let's also be honest about the reason Trump is now at least stating he's doing it, which is the real reason, is because he wants to stem the flow of drugs and undocumented immigrants coming into our country, and is demanding they stop it, that they stop these flows. They put more money and troops at their borders, both in the north and south of the United States, to stop that, to stop fentanyl from coming in and killing our people. Those are all good reasons to do something, but just be honest. Be honest when you're running for office and be honest when you're in office that I'm doing this as a tactic to make sure that they are going to be enforcing their borders more. And so far, it looks like since these tariffs were just announced, they are being delayed for at least 30 days because Canada is now putting $1.2 billion into their border security that they weren't planning to do until before a month ago. And Mexico is also now pledging to put 10,000 more troops on their border. Those are things that'll help us. They are costs we're not going to have to front, and that can hopefully stop deadly drugs and stop an influx of our open border. Those could be positive things, but let's be honest, they will raise the price of groceries, and they will cause a lot of pain for us here at home. That's a trade-off. Do we want to make it? Well, it's helpful to know what the actual reality is when being given that choice. But the blind devotion to Trump, ignoring facts and experts, really does sum up the growing divide between MAGA and the rest of the Republican Party, which is very tiny, and between MAGA and the rest of society, which is a little bit of a bigger chunk, but is shrinking day by day. Because even the Wall Street Journal has called these tariffs dumb. Mitch McConnell has said, why start a trade war with your allies? And yes, Mitch McConnell's a far-left lunatic, it's true. But sometimes you gotta listen to these far-left lunatics, even if they freeze publicly when speaking. So we'll see how it shakes out. Trump is using them at the moment, it seems, mostly as a cudgel and a bargaining chip. But if they come into effect, it'll be tough on Americans. And is that going to be worth it to us? Well, we'll see how MAGA reacts when the prices of groceries keep going up and the prices of all the products they enjoy buying start going through the roof. Will they start realizing that they were lied to directly? Probably not. I'm Ben Glebe for Rebel HQ. You can follow me at Ben Glebe on Instagram for lots more.